My name is Darcy Ingram, and I am 32 years old. 3 days before my wedding, my dad called. It was a Tuesday. I was in my workshop trimming roses for the centerpieces, soil under my nails, playlist on low, and the caller ID said Dad, so I picked up with my elbow because my hands were wet. 6 words. That is all it took. I am not walking you down the aisle. I set the pruning shears on the counter, wiped my hands on my jeans, said nothing for maybe 5 seconds, which does not sound long until you are the one counting. Vanessa says it would upset her, he said. My sister. Vanessa. 3 years older, married, 2 kids, and apparently still the center of every decision my parents make, even mine. Your sister is going through a rough time, Darcy. Her marriage. You know. I did know, but this was my wedding, not hers. 10 minutes later, my mom called to finish the job. Go solo, stop making drama, lots of modern brides walk alone. She said it like she was reading a brochure. 48 hours later, 200 people would turn around when those barn doors opened, and the man holding my arm would not be my father. Welcome back to Calm Drama Stories. This is a place where we share real stories about family, boundaries, and the people who show up when it matters most. Drop a comment and be sure to subscribe. I grew up in Ridgewood, Connecticut. White clapboard houses, leaf blowers on Saturdays, the kind of town where everyone knows your mailbox but not your middle name. Vanessa was the bright one, straight A's, debate team captain. Piano recitals where my parents sat front row with the camera. My dad introduced her at neighborhood cookouts the same way every time. This is Vanessa. She is going to be a lawyer. He said it like it had already happened. I was the one who came home with dirt on my knees. I built a greenhouse in the backyard when I was 14, scrap wood from a neighbor's renovation, plastic sheeting from the hardware store, a hinge I pulled off an old cabinet. It stood 7 feet tall, and it was not pretty, but it grew tomatoes the size of my fist by August. That year, my school science fair fell on the same Saturday as Vanessa's regional spelling bee. I entered my greenhouse tomatoes, heirloom seeds, controlled soil pH, growth journal with daily photos. I won first place. Blue ribbon pinned to my poster board by the time my dad walked in. He walked in 40 minutes late. The judges were already stacking chairs. Sorry, kiddo, Vanessa's event ran long. He glanced at the ribbon, nodded, said good job, the way you say it to a stranger's kid at a checkout line. Then he checked his phone. That greenhouse stayed in the backyard for 9 years. I repaired the hinge twice, replaced the sheeting once. My mom called it an eyesore. My dad called it nothing. He never mentioned it again. But it kept growing tomatoes every summer, whether anyone noticed or not. My high school graduation was on a Thursday in June. That same week, Vanessa got her acceptance letter to Columbia's MBA program. My parents decided to combine the celebrations into one dinner at Ristorante Luca downtown. 3 speeches were given. All 3 were about Vanessa. My dad raised his glass. To our Columbia girl. My mom wiped her eyes and said she always knew. Vanessa thanked them for believing in her. I ate my pasta and clapped in the right places. No one mentioned my diploma. I had graduated with a 3.7 GPA and an acceptance to the University of Connecticut's horticulture program. I paid my own application fee from the landscaping jobs I had been running since sophomore year, mowing, weeding, planting beds for 6 neighbors at $40 each. When I told my mom about the horticulture degree, she set her coffee mug down and looked at me like I had said something in another language. That is not a real career, Darcy. 5 words. She said them once to my face and apparently many more times behind my back. Ruth Kellerman, our neighbor 3 doors down and my grandmother Eleanor's closest friend, told me years later that she overheard my mom on the phone with her sister saying the same thing. Darcy is studying gardening. I do not even know what to tell people. Vanessa's MBA tuition was paid in full by my parents, $22,000 a year. I know the number because Donna, my mom, mentioned it at Thanksgiving like it was a public service announcement. My tuition? I paid myself. Landscaping in the summers. Greenhouse work on campus during the school year. Student loans for the rest. Nobody announced my balance at the dinner table. Vanessa married Preston Hale 3 years after Columbia. Investment banking. Charcoal suit at the rehearsal dinner. Cufflinks that cost more than my truck payment. My parents glowed at the wedding like they had personally arranged the stock market. Then the grandchildren came. Lily first, now 5. Owen 2 years later, now 3. My dad retired from his insurance firm the same year Owen was born, and those 2 kids became the center of his universe. He drove to Vanessa's house in Darien 3 times a week. He built Lily a swing set. He read Owen the same train book 47 times because Owen screamed if he stopped. Vanessa noticed. She noticed the way you notice a lever you can pull. The first time she used the kids was over Christmas seating. Vanessa wanted the head of the table. My dad gave it to her. The second time was about a family photo. Vanessa wanted it retaken without me in the background. My dad asked me to step aside. The third time, I heard it myself. Speakerphone. My dad did not realize I was in the kitchen. If you walk her, I will not bring the kids to Christmas. My dad paused. I could hear his breathing through the phone. Then Vanessa's voice, calm and practiced. I mean it, Dad. It is too much for me right now. You know what I am going through. My dad said, Okay, Nessa. Okay. My mom walked into the kitchen 30 seconds later, saw my face. She knew I had heard. Her response was not an apology. She is their mother, Richard. Do not push her. That was the hierarchy. Vanessa, then the grandchildren, then my parents' comfort, then somewhere below the property taxes. Me. I met Marcus Delaney on a Tuesday in April 3 years ago. I was planting a rain garden for the county drainage project along Route 12. He was the structural engineer building the bridge 60 yards upstream. We both showed up at 6:30 in the morning. We both drank black coffee from thermoses. He saw me hauling a bald root system out of my truck bed and walked over without being asked. Need a hand? I have got it. I know, but my coffee is done and I am bored. That was the first sentence Marcus ever said to me that was not about drainage grades. Our first date was a nursery tour and then tacos from a truck in the parking lot. He had dirt on his boots. I had dirt on mine. It was the most natural evening of my life. He introduced me to his dad 2 weeks later. Frank Delaney, 63. Retired carpenter. Hands like leather gloves someone left in the sun too long. He lived alone in the same house he had built with Marcus's mom, who died of pancreatic cancer 8 years earlier. There was a workshop in the back with sawdust on every surface and a radio tuned to a classic rock station that I am not sure he ever turned off. Frank called me kiddo by week 3. By month 2, he had built me a bookshelf for my workshop. White oak, sanded smooth, dovetailed joints. He carved my initials on the inside of the left panel, D.I. Small enough you would miss it unless you knew where to look. I run my fingers over those letters every morning when I open the shop. You got dirt under your nails, he said the first time he visited my greenhouse. Good. Means you built something today. Nobody in my family had ever said that to me. Marcus proposed in the botanical garden I designed for the Ridgewood Public Library. It was an October evening, and the Japanese maples were turning that deep burgundy that makes people stop their cars. He got down on one knee next to the stone bench I had set into the path 2 summers earlier. I said yes before he finished the question. That night, I called my parents. My dad picked up on the 4th ring. I told him. There was silence for about 3 seconds. Then, congratulations. Not, I am happy for you. Not, tell me everything. Just the word you say when a coworker announces their promotion. My mom took the phone. Is he from a good family? She did not ask if I was happy. She did not ask about the ring, or the garden, or the evening. She asked about his family the way she might ask about his credit score. He is, I said. His dad is a carpenter. Silence again, the kind where someone is choosing not to say what they are thinking. I sent the wedding invitation by hand. I designed it myself. Botanical illustrations along the border, pressed fern on the inside flap. I drove it to their house and left it in the mailbox because I did not want to watch them open it. I also asked my dad to walk me down the aisle. He said yes. Quickly, almost reflexively, like someone agreeing to hold a door. Marcus said what he always says when I give my parents a chance they have not earned. He put his hand on my knee and looked at me with those steady brown eyes. You know who they are, Darcy. I know, but I want to give them one more chance. He nodded. He never tells me what to do with my family. He just makes sure I have somewhere soft to land afterward. The call came on a Tuesday evening, 3 days before the wedding. I was in the workshop, trimming the last roses for the centerpieces. 14 arrangements, each one hand-tied. The radio was playing something with a fiddle and I was humming along when the phone lit up on the workbench. Dad. I wiped my hands on my jeans and picked up. Darcy, I need to tell you something. His voice was the one he used when he was about to deliver bad news to a client. Steady but detached. Professional avoidance. I am not going to walk you down the aisle. The pruning shears were still in my other hand. I set them down slowly, the way you set something down when you are not sure you can hold it without breaking it. Vanessa says it would upset her. Dad. Vanessa is not getting married, I am. She says seeing me give you away would be too painful right now. Her marriage is going through a rough patch. You know that. So, my wedding day is about her feelings. Silence. Long. I could hear the television in his den. Some game show. I am sorry, Darcy. I did not yell. I did not cry. I asked him one question. The only one that mattered. Did Vanessa threaten you with the kids again? More silence. Then his voice dropped lower, as if someone might hear. She said if I walked you, she would not bring Lily and Owen to Christmas. There it was. The lever. The same lever she had been pulling for years, and he had been folding to every single time. His grandchildren traded for his daughter's wedding day, and he chose the trade without blinking. Okay, Dad. Darcy, please understand. I said okay. I hung up, set the phone on the workbench, picked up the shears, finished the 14th arrangement. My hands did not shake. I wanted them to. Shaking would have meant I was surprised. I was not surprised. I was just finally done pretending I might be. My mom called 10 minutes later. Right on schedule. Donna Ingram does not leave loose ends. Your father told you. Yes. Darcy, do not make this bigger than it is. Go solo. Lots of modern brides walk alone. It is actually quite empowering if you think about it. She said empowering the way someone says organic when they do not buy organic. Mom, I asked Dad a year ago. He said yes. Things change. Your sister is hurting. And I am not? Pause. I heard her take a breath. The measured kind. The kind she uses before she says something she has already decided is reasonable. You have Marcus. Vanessa has no one right now. I almost laughed. Almost. Because the math of it was so perfectly Donna. Vanessa's pain outweighed mine because Vanessa's pain always outweighed mine, not because it was larger, because it was hers. Stop making drama, Darcy. This is not the hill. I hung up, walked out to the porch, sat on the top step. The October air was cold enough to see my breath but not cold enough to go inside. I held my phone in both hands and stared at the garden I had planted when I moved into this house 4 years ago. Hydrangeas along the fence, lavender by the walkway, a dogwood I put in the first spring that was now taller than me. Marcus found me 20 minutes later. No tears, just sitting, holding the phone like it was something I was not sure I wanted to keep. He sat down next to me, did not ask what happened, did not say, "I told you so," just put his arm around my shoulder and waited. After a while, I stood up, walked through the workshop, stopped at the oak bookshelf Frank built me, ran my fingers along the inside panel, found the carved letters, DI, traced them twice. Then I went to bed. Wednesday morning, 2 days before the wedding. Marcus made eggs, scrambled the way I like them, with chives from the windowsill pot he keeps alive for me because I somehow managed to overwater indoor plants while running a professional landscaping business. He set the plate down, sat across from me, waited. "My dad is not walking me. I heard you on the phone." He poured coffee. "What do you want to do?" Not, "I will fix this," not, "let me call them," just, "What do you want to do?" That is Marcus. He does not rescue. He stands next to you and hands you the thing you need. "I do not want to walk alone." "Then you will not." He took a sip, set the mug down, looked at me the way he looks at a structural plan, calm, focused, already 3 steps ahead. Dad has been practicing his tie knot since the engagement. I watched him YouTube it twice last Sunday. I smiled. First one in 12 hours. I cannot ask Frank to do that. It is too much. Darce, that man built you a bookshelf he did not have to build. He drives 40 minutes to your shop on Saturdays to fix hinges you did not ask him to fix. He set a place for you at Sunday dinner 2 months after we started dating and has not removed it since. I stared at my eggs. "He has been waiting," Marcus said. He just did not want to overstep. The thought of it made something crack open in my chest. Not pain, something warmer. The realization that the person I needed had been there for 3 years, sanding wood in his garage, calling me kiddo, showing up for every single thing my own father had skipped. "Okay," I said. "I will ask him today." Jeanette called an hour later. My best friend. Maid of honor. The kind of woman who tells you your hair looks terrible before a date and then fixes it in 90 seconds. She had run into Vanessa at the salon in Darien that morning. Same colorist, apparently. Small towns have long arms. "Your sister was there," Jeanette said. "And she was not subtle." "What did she say?" "She was telling the colorist about your wedding, how stressful it is, how it is making everything about Darcy again." I closed my eyes. "Again?" Her word. She said, and I am quoting, "Darcy always gets the attention now. Ever since she started that garden business, it is like the rest of us do not exist." I almost dropped the phone. Darcy always gets the attention. Me. The one who won a science fair to an empty chair. The one whose graduation dinner became a Columbia acceptance party. The one whose career was publicly labeled not real by her own mother. She also said, and I wish I were making this up, her little garden business is not even real work. There it was. The same sentence, Donna's words in Vanessa's mouth. Passed down like a family recipe nobody asked for. Jeanette's voice softened. "She is not upset about the wedding, Darce. She is jealous. You have Marcus. You have your business. You have a life that does not need her to validate it, and she cannot stand it." I sat with that for a minute. Jeanette is right about most things, and she was right about this. Vanessa did not want my dad to walk me because it would hurt her. She wanted him to stay home because my happiness was something she could not control, and controlling the aisle walk was the closest she could get. I should tell you about Thanksgiving. Last November, Vanessa hosted because Donna insisted. "Your sister has the bigger dining room." This was technically true. It was also beside the point. Preston sat at the head of the table in a shirt that probably cost what I charge for a full garden install. He checked his phone 11 times during the meal. I counted because I was seated directly across from him, and there was nothing else to look at while Donna talked about Vanessa's kitchen renovation. Vanessa was loud that night. Not the normal, loud. The loud where you are trying to fill a room so nobody hears the silence underneath. She laughed at things that were not funny. She refilled glasses that were still half full. She touched Preston's arm twice, and he did not react either time. Then Lily said it. She was 5. She had mashed potatoes on her chin, and she said it the way 5-year-olds say everything, clearly and without knowing what it means. "Why does Daddy sleep in the office?" The table went quiet. Preston looked up from his phone. Vanessa's face did something I had never seen before. It folded. Not anger. Not embarrassment. Something underneath both of those. My dad cleared his throat and asked Owen if he wanted more bread, but I saw Vanessa's hands. They shook when she poured the wine. Small tremor. 2 seconds. Then she straightened up, smiled, and passed the cranberry sauce like nothing had happened. I understood something that night. Vanessa's marriage was not going through a rough patch. It was going through the floor. And instead of dealing with it, she was rearranging the furniture on top of the cracks. My wedding was just the latest piece of furniture she needed to move. Wednesday morning, 2 days before the wedding. I drove to Frank's house. He lives on a dead-end road off Route 9 in a town called Chester. The house is brown shingled, single story, with a porch he rebuilt in 2019 and a garage that smells like linseed oil and cedar. The radio in his workshop plays classic rock at a volume that suggests he believes Led Zeppelin should be experienced as a background presence in all human activities. He was sanding a rocking chair when I pulled in. Teak. Beautiful grain. He was in his work apron, the one with sawdust permanently embedded in the fabric like a second texture. I stood at the garage door for a full 10 seconds before he looked up. "Hey, kiddo." He blew dust off the armrest. "Coffee is on inside." "Frank." He must have heard something in my voice because he set the sandpaper down immediately, turned to face me, wiped his hands on the apron. My dad backed out of walking me down the aisle. He did not say, "I am sorry." He did not ask why. He did not shake his head or offer an opinion about my father or my family or the situation. He just looked at me with those steady gray eyes, the same eyes Marcus has, and said 5 words. "When do you need me?" That is the sentence. That is the whole thing. No hesitation. No, "Are you sure?" No, "Let me think about it." The man was sanding a chair, and the next breath he took was offering to walk me into my future like it was already on his calendar. Saturday, 1 o'clock. I will be there at noon. He picked up the sandpaper, started sanding again, then, quieter. "Kiddo, I have been waiting for someone to ask." I cried in the car on the way home, first time all week. The next 48 hours moved like a current. Jeanette handled logistics with the calm efficiency of someone who has planned 3 baby showers and once organized a surprise birthday party during a blizzard. She updated the seating chart. The father of the bride seat at the head table was reassigned. Front row, center aisle, now labeled Frank Delaney, the seat my dad was supposed to fill. Marcus took his dad's suit shopping Thursday after work. Frank had a sport coat from 2011 that he swore still fit. Marcus sent me a photo from the fitting room. Frank in a new charcoal suit, looking simultaneously proud and uncomfortable, his rough hands sticking out of the pressed cuffs like they did not belong to the same outfit. Marcus texted underneath the photo. He asked me 3 times if the tie was straight. I wrote my vows that evening in the workshop. The oak bookshelf was to my left, Frank's initials project to my right. A cutting board he had started for our wedding gift and thought I did not know about. I wrote by hand on the back of a landscape sketch, crossed out lines, rewrote them, settled on something simple. My parents did not call Wednesday, did not call Thursday, did not text. I checked my phone twice Thursday night and then put it in the kitchen drawer. Marcus noticed. He did not say anything. He just made tea and left a mug on my nightstand. I did not tell my parents about Frank. They assumed I would walk alone. Let them assume. The doors would open Saturday and the answer would be standing right next to me. Thursday afternoon, 2 days before the wedding. I was reorganizing the centerpieces in the workshop when there was a knock at the front door. Ruth Kellerman, 68 years old, silver hair, always pulled back. She lived 3 houses down from my parents and had been my grandmother Eleanor's closest friend for 40 years. When Eleanor died 11 years ago, Ruth was the one who sat with her at the end. She was also the one who told me about Donna calling my career gardening behind my back. Ruth stood on my porch holding a yellowed envelope. "Your grandmother asked me to give you this," she said, the week before she passed. "She told me to hold it until you were getting married." Ruth's eyes were damp. "I have been carrying it for 11 years, Darcy. I was beginning to think it would outlast me." The envelope was soft at the edges. My grandmother's handwriting on the front. Just my name. Darcy. I opened it at the kitchen table. Ruth sat across from me and did not speak. The letter was short, 12 sentences. Eleanor had always been efficient with words. "Darcy, when you read this, you are about to walk into the most important room of your life. I wish I could be there. I wish I could tell your mother to sit down and let you shine. I wish I could tell your father to look up from whatever is distracting him and see you, but I know how that family works. So let me say what they will not. You have always been the one who builds. From that greenhouse to whatever you are building now, you make things grow where nothing was. Do not wait for them to see it. The people who show up are your real family. I love you. Build something beautiful." I read it 3 times, folded it carefully, placed it in the clutch bag I would carry on Saturday. Family is who shows up. Thursday night passed without a call. Friday the same. No text. No voicemail. No last-minute change of heart from Richard or Donna. Friday evening was the rehearsal dinner. Frank drove 40 minutes from Chester. He arrived 20 minutes early and helped the caterer move tables because he saw them struggling and could not watch someone carry a folding table incorrectly. 30 guests, all from Marcus's side. My college roommate, Alexis, 2 women from the greenhouse workshop group I run on Saturday mornings for local moms. Ruth. Jeanette, of course, and nobody from my family. The barn venue looked beautiful. Open sides, string lights, wildflower arrangements I had designed and grown myself. Lavender and Queen Anne's lace and late-season dahlias in copper vases I found at an estate sale in Litchfield. Frank stood up for the toast. He held his glass the way he holds a chisel, firmly, like he means it. I am not a man of many words. Ask Marcus. He will confirm. Light laughter. But I will say this. 3 years ago, a woman showed up at my son's job site and hauled a root ball out of a truck like it owed her money. I liked her immediately. He paused, looked at me. I never got a daughter. God just made me wait a little longer. The room went quiet. Jeanette pressed a napkin to her eyes. Marcus put his hand on my knee under the table. Frank raised his glass. To Darcy, who makes things grow. I looked at his wrist. Sawdust. Just a trace, caught in the fold of his cuff. He had come straight from the workshop. He always came straight from the workshop. That was Friday. Saturday was the wedding. That same Friday evening, 40 minutes south, my father sat in his garage. I did not know this at the time. Jeanette told me weeks later. She had a friend in Ridgewood who saw Richard at the gas station near his house, and they exchanged a few words. The friend said he looked like a man carrying something too heavy to put down and too painful to hold. He sat in the garage where he used to park his sedan, on a folding chair, looking at the wall. There was a photo on the pegboard. Me at 12, holding a tomato from the greenhouse, grinning like I had invented sunlight. He had hung that photo years ago and apparently never taken it down, even though the greenhouse was gone. Donna made him dismantle it when I left for college. It is an eyesore, Richard. Donna came out to the garage at 9. Are we going tomorrow? Richard looked at her. I think we should. Fine, but we sit in the back. I am not going to let Darcy turn this into some kind of statement. Richard nodded. He opened his phone, typed a message to me. I am proud of you, Darcy. He stared at the screen for a long time. Read it back. Then deleted every word, locked the phone, and went inside. I did not know about the message until much later, but I think about it sometimes. Not with sadness, more with a kind of tired understanding. My father is not a cruel man. He is a weak one, and weakness, when it sits in the same house as control, becomes cruelty by default. He went to bed without sending anything. Friday evening, 9:45. My phone buzzed. Vanessa. I heard you are not walking alone. Who is walking you? I looked at the screen, put the phone face down. Did not reply. 11 minutes later, Jeanette forwarded me a screenshot. Vanessa had texted her. Do you know who is walking Darcy tomorrow? She will not answer me. Jeanette's response was a single period. Nothing else. I loved her for that. Vanessa called my dad next. I know because Richard texted Marcus, not me, Marcus, at 10:15. Marcus showed me the message. Vanessa is upset. She thinks Darcy is bringing someone to walk her to embarrass us. Maybe we should not go. Marcus typed a response and then deleted it. Typed another one. Deleted that too. Then he set the phone down and looked at me. Your dad just asked if we are trying to embarrass them. At my own wedding. That is what he said. I took a breath. Held it. Let it go. Donna called Richard back. I found this out later from Ruth, who had contacts I will never fully understand. Donna told Richard they were going. I will not give her the satisfaction of saying we were not there. Classic Donna. Attendance as a strategic position, not an act of love. Then Vanessa's final text of the night. To my dad. Forwarded later by the same Ruth network. If you are going, then I am coming too. So that was the setup. Saturday morning, a wedding, 200 guests, a carpenter in a charcoal suit, and 3 uninvited spectators in the back row who still thought the day was about them. Saturday. I woke at 5:15. The house was dark. Marcus had slept at Frank's. Tradition, he said, though I suspect it was mostly so. Frank would not pace the kitchen alone all night. I made coffee. Sat on the porch. The garden was still in that early morning fog where everything looks like a watercolor someone left out in the rain. The hydrangeas along the fence were fading. Late October does that. But the lavender still held. Lavender always holds longer than you expect. My phone had 2 messages. Frank. Ready when you are, kiddo. Tie is straight. I checked 4 times. Marcus. See you at the end of the aisle. I will be the one who cannot stop smiling. I looked at my hands. Calluses on the pads below my index fingers from years of pruning shears. A thin scar on my left thumb from a greenhouse repair gone wrong when I was 17. Soil under the nail of my right ring finger that I must have missed in the shower. These hands built a greenhouse at 14. They planted lavender and hydrangea. They dug beds for 6 neighbors at $40 each. They signed a business license, shook hands with clients, arranged 14 centerpieces for a wedding that my own parents could not be bothered to attend with grace. I finished my coffee, washed the mug, showered, dried my hair, pinned it up with the pearl hairpin Ruth had given me along with Eleanor's letter. It had been my grandmother's. I looked at myself in the mirror and saw exactly what I expected. Not a victim, not a broken daughter. Just a woman with dirt-stained hands and a clear plan for the day. I picked up the clutch bag with Eleanor's letter inside. Drove to the venue. The venue was a converted barn on a hill outside of Ridgewood. Open sides, cedar beams. The kind of place that looks like it has been hosting weddings for a century, but was actually a dairy barn until 2016. I had done the flowers myself. Every arrangement. Wildflower bundles in copper vases, lavender, Queen Anne's lace, late dahlias, sprigs of rosemary because my grandmother always said rosemary was for remembrance. The altar was framed with climbing clematis I had trained on a wooden trellis Marcus built. It smelled like earth and October. Jeanette was already in the bridal suite when I arrived. She had my makeup kit open and a mimosa in hand. "You look like a woman who has been awake since 5:15. "Close enough. Sit down." She worked quickly. Foundation. Blush. A lip color she called Quiet Power that I am fairly certain she made up on the spot. Ruth arrived at 10 with a small velvet box. Inside, a pair of pearl drop earrings. "Your grandmother's," Ruth said. "She wore these to her own wedding in 1974. Something borrowed, something old, both in one." I held them in my palm. They were warm, as if someone had just taken them off. Alexis and my 2 college friends arrived next. The 5 of us in the bridal suite. Jeanette fixing my hair, Ruth sitting in the corner with her hands in her lap like a woman who had been waiting 11 years for exactly this morning. No mother. No sister. Jeanette caught me glancing at the door once. "Stop looking at that door, Darcy. Everyone who matters is already in this room." She was not wrong. But it still stung, the way an old bruise stings when you bump it on something you thought you had moved out of the way. A knock at the door. 10:45. Jeanette opened it. Frank stood in the doorway in his new charcoal suit. White shirt. Navy tie Marcus had picked out. His hands hung at his sides, still rough, still scarred from decades of wood and nails and things built for other people. He saw me in my dress and stopped. For a man who spends his life measuring cuts to the 16th of an inch, Frank is remarkably imprecise with his emotions. His eyes filled immediately, his jaw tightened. He blinked twice, hard, and then said, "Oh, kiddo." "Do not cry, Frank. I just got my mascara on." "I am not crying." Sawdust. Gets everywhere. Jeanette laughed from across the room. Ruth smiled. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small wooden box. Walnut. Hand finished. Inside was a boutonniere, dried oak leaves, baby's breath, wrapped in twine. "Made it this morning. Figured flowers from a store would not feel right for you." I pinned it to his lapel. The oak leaves were from his workshop. Same white oak as the bookshelf. Same wood that had been part of my life for 3 years, built into the walls of my daily routine. "You look beautiful," he said. Then he corrected himself. "No, you look strong." Nobody had ever said that to me on a day when I was supposed to look beautiful, and it was exactly the right word. He took a seat in the corner next to Ruth. The 2 of them sat there quietly, a 63-year-old carpenter and a 68-year-old retired teacher, like the most unlikely security detail in wedding history, waiting for the doors to open. At noon, I peeked through the curtain at the side of the barn. Marcus's side was full. Aunts, uncles, cousins, friends from his engineering firm. His cousin brought a toddler who was already asleep. His college roommate was adjusting a bow tie that looked borrowed. My side was smaller but not empty. Ruth's seat was reserved up front. Alexis and the college girls were there. 7 women from my greenhouse workshop, the Saturday morning group where I teach local moms how to start vegetable gardens. 3 landscaping clients who had become friends over the years. My accountant, Gloria, who once told me my quarterly taxes made her proud. And then I saw the back row. Far right. 3 figures. Richard in a dark suit, looking at his shoes. Donna sitting rigid with her purse on her lap like a shield. And Vanessa in a dress that was slightly too formal for an outdoor barn wedding, scanning the room with the expression of someone cataloging exits. They came. My stomach dropped, not because I was afraid, because for 1 second, one stupid, reflexive second, my heart said, maybe they are here to make it right. Then I watched Donna lean over and whisper something to Richard, and he nodded without looking up, and I knew. They were not here for me. They were here so they could say they were here. Attendance as alibi. I let the curtain fall. Turned back to the room. Jeanette was adjusting her bouquet. Frank was brushing something off his sleeve. Ruth was reading Eleanor's letter one more time. I had shown it to her that morning, and she had cried quietly for 3 minutes. The coordinator stepped in. 15 minutes. The music started at 1 o'clock sharp, a string quartet Marcus had found through a friend. They played something soft and ascending. I do not know the name, but it sounded like sunlight moving through trees. The bridesmaids walked first. Alexis, then Sarah, then Jeanette last. Jeanette paused at the door and looked back at me. Winked. Then she stepped through and the aisle swallowed her in white light. Silence. The brief, held breath kind where 200 people go still at once, and the only sound is the wind through the open sides of the barn. The coordinator touched my arm. Ready? I opened the clutch bag, took out Eleanor's letter, read one line, the last one. The people who show up are your real family. I folded it, put it back, closed the clasp. Frank stepped beside me. He offered his arm. His sleeve was crisp, but his hand was the same. Rough, warm, calloused from 40 years of building things for people he loved. I placed my hand on his forearm and felt the steadiness of a man who does not shake. You good? He asked. I am good. Then let us go show them what showing up looks like. The barn doors swung open. Light flooded in. October sun, low and gold, catching the dust motes in the air like someone had scattered glitter by hand. 200 heads turned. And there we were. Frank Delaney and Darcy Ingram, a carpenter and a gardener. Neither one of us related by blood. Both of us exactly where we were supposed to be. I felt his hand cover mine on his arm. Steady. Warm. The rough grain of decades of work pressed against my skin. He took the first step and I matched it. We walked. I did not look at the back row. I did not need to. I looked straight ahead, where Marcus stood at the end of the aisle with wet eyes and a grin that said everything his words would say later. This was my wedding day. And I was not walking alone. The doors were open. 200 people saw. And the man holding my arm was not my father by blood. He was my father by choice. If you have ever found family outside of blood, someone who showed up when the people who should have did not, hit subscribe and stay with me. Because what happened next is a moment I will carry forever. The aisle was 60 feet long. I know because I measured it myself during the venue walkthrough in August. 60 feet of reclaimed oak planks. The irony of walking on oak toward a future given to me by a man who built with it was not lost on me, though I did not think about it at the time. At the time, I was counting Frank's steps. Left, right, left. Slow and steady. The same rhythm he uses when he planes a board. Measured, intentional. The kind of pace that says I have done this before in my bones, even if I have not. The gasps started about 10 steps in. Not loud. Just the small, involuntary sounds people make when they are putting together a story in real time. Guests who knew. Jeanette's friends. The greenhouse workshop moms. Gloria, my accountant. They smiled and pressed tissues to their eyes. Guests who did not know looked at Frank and then scanned the room for someone who looked like a father of the bride, and found a man in the back row who would not meet anyone's eyes. I did not look at Richard. I want to be clear about that. I did not turn my head, did not search for his face, did not give him the satisfaction of a glance or the cruelty of a pointed one. I looked at Ruth, who was dabbing her eyes in the front row. At Jeanette, standing at the altar, hand over her mouth. At the greenhouse workshop moms, 3 of whom were openly weeping. Then I looked at Marcus. He stood at the end of the aisle, hands at his sides, eyes full. He nodded once at Frank. Not a greeting, but a thank you. The kind of nod men exchange when words would take too long, and the moment is already perfect. In the back row, I am told, Richard half stood, caught himself on the pew, sat back down. Donna grabbed his arm. Vanessa stared straight ahead with an expression that Ruth later described as a woman watching a door close that she cannot reopen. We reached the altar. The officiant smiled. She was a woman named Reverend Keene, short, gray-haired, the kind of voice that makes you feel like everything will be fine, even when it will not. Who gives this woman in marriage? Frank cleared his throat. He is not a man who speaks to crowds. He builds for them, fixes things for them, feeds them Sunday roast and sends them home with leftovers. But he does not address them. Today, he did. Her family does. A pause. Then quieter, like he was saying it to me rather than the room. All of us who showed up. The room exhaled. I heard a soft sob from the front row. Ruth. Jeanette's mascara was already done. Gloria was using her program as a fan and a tissue simultaneously. Frank turned to me, took both my hands, squeezed once. His grip was the same grip that shaped the bookshelf, the cutting board, the boutonniere, the same hands. Go get married, kiddo. He placed my hand in Marcus's, stepped back, walked to the front row, center aisle, sat in the seat that had been labeled with his name that morning, the seat my father was supposed to fill. Marcus leaned in and mouthed 2 words to his dad. Thank you. Frank nodded, folded his hands in his lap. I noticed sawdust on his right cuff. He always had sawdust on his right cuff. I turned to Marcus. The ceremony began. When it came time for vows, I said what I had written in the workshop 2 nights earlier, next to the oak bookshelf, on the back of a landscape sketch. I choose you, and I choose the family we build, not the one we were given. The one we make with our hands every day, from the ground up. Marcus said his vows. I do not remember the words. I remember his eyes. We were married at 1:27 in the afternoon. The reception started at 2. Same barn, tables rearranged, string lights on. The band played something acoustic and warm. People danced. Owen, Vanessa's 3-year-old, ran between tables chasing a balloon that had escaped its anchor. Lily sat on Richard's lap and asked for cake. At 3, Frank stood up for his toast. The room quieted the way rooms do when they can feel something real about to happen. I am going to keep this short because Marcus told me if I talked for more than 2 minutes, he would play me off with a trombone. Laughter. I do not own a trombone, so I believe him. He held his glass. The first time Darcy came to my house for Sunday dinner, I had a fern on the windowsill. It was dying. Had been dying for a year. I had given up on it. She walked in, looked at it, and within 10 minutes, she had repotted it, moved it to a different window, and told me I was overwatering. He looked at me. I knew then. Any woman who saves a dying plant without being asked is also the kind of woman who will save a dying old man from eating alone every Sunday. Silence. Then the room broke open. Applause. Tears. Jeanette stood up and clapped until her palms were red. People started talking after the toast. Not to me directly, but around me, the way you talk at events when you want the person to overhear. She designed the garden at Ridgewood Library, you know. Her company does the courthouse grounds, Have you seen them in spring? She runs a free workshop for moms every Saturday. My work. Speaking for itself, in a room full of people who came because they chose to, while my own family sat at a corner table and said nothing. Richard found me at the dessert table. I was cutting into the lemon cake. My choice, not Donna's, when I felt someone step too close on my left side. I knew it was him before I turned. He smelled like the same aftershave he has worn since I was 7. Old Spice, the one in the white bottle. Darcy. I turned. He was holding a glass of water. Not champagne. Water. His eyes were red at the edges, and his jaw was doing the thing it does when he is trying not to say something that might come out wrong. That man. He did a good job. His name is Frank. Richard nodded. Frank. Yes. He did a good job up there. He did. Silence. Richard looked at the cake, at the table, at anything that was not my face. I wanted to say I am sorry. I looked at him. Not with anger, not with forgiveness. Just the flat, clear gaze of someone who has spent 32 years watching a man choose the path of least resistance. Sorry that you missed it, I said. Or sorry that everyone saw? He flinched. Small. The kind of flinch that only happens when someone says out loud what you have been thinking for 3 days. Before he could answer, Donna appeared, hand on his elbow, guiding him away the way she always guides him, firmly, like steering a cart. Richard, come sit down. She leaned toward me as she turned him away, voice low, controlled. The same tone she used on the phone Tuesday night. Do not make a scene, Darcy. I picked up the cake knife, set a slice on a plate. I am not the one making scenes, Mom. I am cutting cake. She walked away. Richard followed. He always follows. The father-daughter dance was at 4. Except it was not a father-daughter dance. It was Frank and me, on a barn floor, under string lights, to a song Marcus picked. An acoustic cover of Lean on Me that made Jeanette cry for the 3rd time. Frank danced the way he builds, carefully, with attention to where his feet were going. He held my hand in his and kept his other hand on my shoulder, not my waist, because Frank is the kind of man who respects a boundary even at a wedding. I step on feet, he warned. I know. Marcus told me. That boy has no loyalty. I laughed. The room laughed. 200 people watching a carpenter dance with a gardener and feeling something true underneath the music. At the corner table, Vanessa watched. Preston was not there. He had a work trip. Or that is what she told Donna. The chair next to her was empty, and she was gripping a champagne flute like it owed her something. Ruth walked over and sat down beside Vanessa. Not hostile, not warm. Just present. The way Ruth does everything. Eleanor would have been so proud of Darcy today, Ruth said. Vanessa looked at her. She would have been proud of both of you, Vanessa, if you had let her. Vanessa's eyes filled. She set the glass down, stood, walked to the bathroom. She was in there for 15 minutes. When she came out, her makeup was freshly applied, but her eyes were swollen and her hands were still shaking the way they shook at Thanksgiving. I saw her cross the room from the dance floor. I did not go to her. I did not send someone after her. I kept dancing with Frank. Some doors close because you shut them. Others close because the person on the other side stopped holding them open. I did not see my parents leave. Jeanette told me later they slipped out around 5, between the cake cutting and the bouquet toss, the way you leave a party you were never really at. The drive home for Richard and Donna was 40 minutes. Ruth heard from a neighbor who heard from Donna's sister that neither of them spoke for the first 20. Then Richard said something. That man built her a bookshelf. Donna looked at him. What? In her workshop. Oak. With her initials carved inside. Donna stared at the road. When was the last time we built her anything, Donna? No answer. The road between Ridgewood and their house runs along the reservoir. Flat water, dark trees, the kind of drive that gives you too much time to think. She did not even look at me, Richard said. When she walked down the aisle, she did not look. She was looking at Marcus. She was looking at everyone except me, and she was right to. Donna said nothing. Richard pulled into the driveway. Donna went inside. Richard sat in the car. The garage light was still on from Friday night. The photo of 12-year-old Darcy with the tomato was still on the pegboard. The greenhouse was gone. Donna made him take it down years ago. But the soil marks where it stood were still faintly visible in the lawn, even in the dark. Some things leave outlines even after they are removed. Richard checked his phone. No message from Darcy. No message coming. The wedding was over. His daughter was married. A carpenter had done what he was supposed to do. And the seat labeled Frank Delaney at the front of the church was the loudest statement anyone made all day. Without saying a word, he went inside and closed the door. Monday morning, 2 days after the wedding, I opened the workshop at 7, same as always. New order on the desk. Landscape design for the children's wing garden at Ridgewood Memorial Hospital. 1,200 square feet. Sensory plants for kids in recovery. Texture gardens. Things you can touch and smell and hold. Marcus brought coffee at 8. Black. Chives on the windowsill still alive. Frank came by at 9 with a cutting board he had been working on for weeks. Cherry wood. Inlaid walnut stripe down the center. For the newlyweds, he said, as if he had not walked me down the aisle 48 hours ago. As if it was just another Saturday. I set it on the counter next to the bookshelf he built 3 years ago. Same man, same hands, same showing up without being asked. My phone buzzed at noon. One text from Richard. Can we talk? I read it. Set the phone face down on the drafting table. Opened the hospital garden plans. Started sketching the sensory path. Rosemary for memory, lavender for calm, mint for energy. Plants that give you something just by being near them. The greenhouse I built at 14 was 7 feet tall and grew tomatoes for one family. This one would be 1,200 square feet and grow healing for children who needed it. I picked up my pencil, drew the first line of the path, then the second, then the border beds. Then the entrance arch. Outside, the October light moved through my workshop window and caught the carved letters on the inside of the bookshelf. DI small enough to miss, deep enough to last. I did not answer the text. I had work to do. 2 weeks after the wedding, Vanessa called. I was on a job site, the hospital garden, measuring drainage grades, when her name appeared on my screen. I almost let it go to voicemail. Almost. But something in me, some remnant of the girl who repaired the greenhouse hinge twice because she believed things could be fixed, made me answer. Darcy. I am here. Silence. Long enough that I checked to see if the call dropped. Preston left. I set down my measuring tape. He moved out last week, took his things while I was at the grocery store. Left a note on the counter. I waited. Vanessa's breathing was uneven. Not crying. Trying not to cry. I just thought you should know. Okay. Another pause. Then her voice broke. Not dramatically. Not the way she performs for my parents, but quietly, like a crack in a wall that has been spreading for years and finally reached the surface. I thought if I could keep Mom and Dad focused on me, it would fill the gap. Preston was not there. The kids were not enough. I needed to be the center of something. And my wedding was in the way. Your happiness was in the way. I let that sit. I did not comfort her. I did not attack her. I stood on a construction site with dirt on my boots and held the phone and listened to my sister finally say the thing she had been hiding behind manipulation for 3 years. Vanessa, I hope you find what you need. I mean that. But I am not your emotional cushion anymore. I cannot be the thing you lean on while you push me down. She cried, quietly. I let her. Then I said goodbye and went back to measuring. A letter arrived the following week. Handwritten. My father's handwriting. Small, tilted, the penmanship of a man who learned to write in a school that still used fountain pens. Not a text, not a call, a letter, mailed with a stamp, postmarked Ridgewood. I opened it in the workshop, alone, standing next to the bookshelf. Darcy, I should have walked you down that aisle. I knew it when Vanessa asked me not to, and I knew it when your mother told me it would be fine, and I knew it when I sat in the back row and watched another man do what I was supposed to do. I chose wrong. I have been choosing wrong your whole life, and telling myself it was easier. It was not easier. It was just cowardly. I let your sister use those children as a wall between us. I let your mother tell me that keeping the peace was the same as being a good father. It was not. Keeping the peace meant keeping you at a distance, and I did it because I was too afraid of what would happen if I pushed back. Frank earned what I threw away. He showed up. I did not. I do not expect you to forgive me. I do not think I would forgive me either. But I want you to know that the photo of you holding that tomato is still on my wall, and I wish I had told you then what I should have said 1,000 times since. I am proud of you, Darcy. I always was. I was just too weak to say it out loud. Dad. I read it twice, folded it, placed it in the desk drawer next to Eleanor's letter. 2 letters, 2 very different weights. I did not reply. I used to think family was the people you were born to, the ones who shared your blood, your name, your dinner table. I do not think that anymore. Family is the man who drives 40 minutes to your workshop on a Saturday to fix a hinge you did not ask him to fix. Family is a letter in a yellowed envelope from a woman who has been gone 11 years. Family is who shows up. That is my story. 3 days of silence. 1 letter from a grandmother. And a carpenter who said yes before I finished asking. If this reminded you that family is a choice, not an obligation, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Thank you for being here. See you in the next one.